Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Links Community Tuesday. We are here talking about golf courses in the United States. Very, very exciting time for LinksDAO. Let everybody fill in here, and then we are going to jump right in. Let's go, USA. All right, we're getting everybody in here. Welcome, welcome. We got C. Bruce. Get Bez and Jim up here. I'm going to miss out on Mr. Senor again this evening, but he promises to be back next week. How's the week been, C. Bruce? Bez, how you doing?
Been good. A lot going on.
Good, just hanging out here. My daughter won't go to bed, so she's hanging with us.
Love it. Love it. Well, while everybody filters in, here we got Jim up on stage. What's up, Jim?
What's up, Coop?
Just a fantastic community Tuesday this evening, talking about U.S. golf courses. Very, very exciting stuff. We're going to jump right into it. Welcome, everybody. For reminders, we're here every week, every Tuesday. We might shift to Thursdays on or about the Masters, but the vote will open at 8:30 tonight, so in about 28 minutes on Snapshot. We're going to get into the details. I do want to remind everyone here that we've already bought one golf course, Spey Bay in Scotland, and event registration for this summer is open now. So you can go to links.golf/Spey/events. We'll drop that link here in the chat and register for those events today. I'm going to be out there. Team's going to be out there. A lot of people have already registered, so grab those events. It's open to all Links members at this time. Some of the events are private, but very, very exciting stuff. Going to be awesome out there. And Steve Bruce, do you want to talk about the signature events that we have dropping very, very soon?
Yeah, we're kind of putting the final touches on the list. We'll actually probably have them coming in a couple waves. But we have some amazing venues this year that are going to be available for all of our members. So we'll plan to release them, for the signature events later this week. Information on them, and then we'll open up purchasing for those at a later time. We'll provide all the details around that, but we've got an awesome slate of events. Some venues that we had last year, some of the courses we had, but some really awesome new ones, including across the country. It's going to be really cool. So stay tuned for more info on that. And then, as Coop mentioned, don't miss the Spey Bay events. We've had that list out there. You just dropped the link in chat. But we've got an awesome slate of 5 events over in Scotland this year, which is going to be a ton of fun.
Looking forward to those signature events and the Scotland events. We will spin the wheel of names at the end of the call here for Links Leagues. So if you haven't posted your scores yet, go and post them, and we will get you included in that. But without further ado, I will kick it over to Jim to talk a little bit about what's going on and how we're doing with U.S. courses.
Hey, everybody. So in perfect timing, my 3-year-old just came in, but he can listen to me talk a little bit about how we've gotten to where we are today. A lot of our learnings, I think, throughout the journey over the last couple of years, and why we're bringing these 2 courses out to the community now, and why your voice is really the only voice that matters in this whole process at the moment. So obviously this project is we've been live for 2 years now. We've seen bull markets and we've built through the bear. I think one thing that is remarkable about this community and then also about the core team is that a lot of other NFT projects kind of um, faded into the distance. We really maintained a leadership position in the world of golf, the world of sports, and we continue to build relentlessly throughout the bear. We have always had a focus on finding properties for our community that really speak to what everybody wants. We've done multiple pollings, and what we've really determined, and this is absolutely no surprise, that the quality of the golf courses are kind of the top priority for the community. Accessibility of the golf courses are also extremely important, and the ability to access them on a regular basis is very important too. Golden Age architects, always a plus, and that's always been one of the things we've looked at first. But we've also learned a heck of a lot over the last couple of years about the golf course market, and the type of targets that we really, really want to pursue. So early on in the project, every single broker that had a golf course available, publicly or privately, reached out to us and said, we want to sell you a golf course. Now, mind you, we started this project at a time where the golf industry had remarkable tailwinds behind it, and the valuations on golf courses really started to rise. And up to this point, they've continued to rise pretty relentlessly, which really makes you zero in on specific properties that you feel like reach a specific criteria. And the criteria that we've always been working on is ability to be a top 100 golf course, really good bones, and ideally really architecturally significant. Now, these golf courses, very specifically, are not largely available on market in a way that you would really want to pursue them, because the golf courses themselves are quite expensive, and a lot of golf courses that go on the market that have some level of notoriety and are within a decent price range need an enormous amount of infrastructure work. Now, there's some golf courses that we looked at. I'll give one as an example. This is a modern golf course, was rated one of the top new golf course openings the year that it opened up. One of the top public golf courses in Georgia when it opened up, a ton of accolades. It's called the Frog. Fazio course, when it opened, it was really, really good, but it really suffered from neglect and underinvestment in the infrastructure of the course. And the bunkering that was originally put on the course was very difficult to maintain and deteriorated faster than bunkers necessarily should. So that golf course, although it was really good, would have taken anywhere from $3 to $5 million in bunkers and irrigation before you get to the rest of the course improvements. Also, what we found is that a lot of good golf courses are surrounded by residential properties. Many developers focus on opening up a golf course in order to sell real estate around the golf course, and that's their overall business model. We know that our community is not necessarily interested in golf courses that are surrounded entirely by houses within a golf community. So as we've really started to zero in on all of these different attributes of golf courses that we've been looking for, we've also been for months and months and months talking to what I would call like the utmost experts in the space. These are incredible partners that we've had over the last couple of years, such as Kemper Sports. Bez, I will say, has made unbelievable relationships with so many of the top architects in the space today, the most well-respected, well-revered, and knowledgeable people in the space. He has them on speed dial in order to vet specific. Sorry, guys. He has them on speed dial in order to vet any golf course that we might necessarily consider. And so what I want everybody on this call to understand is that this is not a team that has been necessarily learning as we go. This is a team that has onboarded an enormous amount of information and knowledge over the last 24 months and has a unprecedented number of trusted advisors that we go to for advice. And so I'm very proud of what the team has done on the ground with Chris and with Bez and the type of opportunities that they vetted. And we're excited to bring you now. One of the other things that we learned is that The golf courses that we want, guys, they are off-market golf courses. They are not publicly available largely, especially for the United States ones. And so we've really had to form relationships across the board to learn about these types of opportunities before anybody else, before the Inviteds of the world, the ex-Club Corps, before the Troons of the world, and before all of the different private equity firms that are coming in and want to get into the golf space. And this is something that we've done extremely fast, and both of the golf courses that we are putting up to really gauge the community sentiment right now are both off-market deals. Now, there's been deals that we would have loved to have seen through to fruition. Two golf courses in particular. Both of them in Georgia, we absolutely loved, and we got through to near term sheet stage. And then both of the owners decided they didn't want to sell them at all. We were the only people they were talking to. But definitely what we found is that patience is important through off-market deals, and finding the type of golf course that we want, meaning diamonds in the rough with great bones that we can invest in and really make into something special for our community has been the way to go. Now, I do want to say that these two golf courses the timing is coincidental. We've been working on two of these or both of these opportunities over the last 6 to 8 months, alongside a bunch of other opportunities. Now, these two are kind of coming more into focus. We're at the point where we can really start to get into signing a term sheet on them. But we want to make sure that one or both of them would meet the criteria that our community wants in order to move forward. If you guys don't want it, we will not move forward on these. The overall vote that we're going to have is not going to be which one do we want to buy. The vote that we're going to have is making sure and kind of testing the pulse of the community, and that these properties, one, two, or the other, are ones that you're interested in us pursuing. This is a very similar thing that we did with Spey Bay. With Spey Bay, of course, we got roughly 90% yeses that we should pursue that. And after we got the yes from the community, we moved forward based on your desires to try to acquire that golf course. We did, and now it's being designed into something really just extraordinary and special. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about your voting. In a little bit, Chris and Bez are going to get into details on both of the courses, but a couple other things to keep in mind before that happens. So one of the reasons why we're not sharing kind of the name, the location, and things like that is because we're under NDA with the other parties involved. So we are going to share absolutely everything that we can in order to not violate those NDAs. The other piece is there has been some chatter about land leases in the opportunity for the Southeast course. Land leases are extremely common in the world of golf. If you guys have heard of pretty much any significant golf course in the UK, or I should say in Scotland outside of the old course, the majority of them are land leases. Kingsbarns is kind of on the St. Andrews Rota for anybody visiting, land lease. Dunbarney, brand new course, quickly kind of top 25 in Scotland, land lease. Land leases are extremely common in the world of golf when parks departments don't want to sell the land, but want to make use of the land to something like a golf course. So I would really consider the land lease as ownership in the way that we all think about it together, meaning full control of the property as the structure for that type of deal. So we're all very excited about these two deals. The team has been working extremely hard to vet them. We would not be bringing them to you unless we felt like they were really, really good opportunities, because of course we've vetted now almost 200 golf courses since the beginning of this project, and these two fit the bill in terms of the feedback we've gotten from all of you in terms of what you're looking for. So with that, I will hand it over to the rest of the team. I'm extremely excited with where we're going. I'm extremely excited with where we're at and the fact that we might have 2 golf courses in the first 2+ years of this project.
Tremendously exciting. So just a note on the proposal voting, which goes live in 15 minutes. There are 3 votes you need to take place. So you need to vote on proposal 19, which is an up-down yes/no vote on the southeast course. You need to vote in proposal 20, which is an up-down yes/no vote on the midwest course. And then you need to vote in proposal 21, which is a comparative. If you had to choose between these 2 options, which one do you select? Just these 3. This is how we determine we get the best possible data from the community and get as much feedback as possible. And like Jim said, it's kind of a coincidence, right, that these 2 courses are coming in at the same time. So please try to be objective with each of the votes. But of course, we are going to have a lot of information coming out from your preferences, as well as all of the discussion that we've had so far in Discord and in Commonwealth over the past few days, and we will over the course of the week, right? It's going to be a week-long vote, so you'll have until next Tuesday, the 12th, to vote. Of course, we want to give you time to be able to get out those wallets, connect them, and vote. And of course, please be very safe when you do that and interacting with the blockchain with your wallets. If you have any questions about how to vote and how to do so safely, please let me know. We'll be posting the video with the instructions on how to use Snapshot for those of you who will be voting for the first time, or those who just need a refresher. But without further ado, I'll kick it over to C. Bruce and Bez to talk about the specific courses and what we've learned in our diligence so far.
Right. I can kick it off. I don't have a talking kid in the background at the moment, so might as well grab the mic. So maybe before we get into the specific courses, Jim touched on this a little bit, but just kind of as a reminder, why these 2 have been kind of put forward, or we've continued to work on them over the past months that we have been. Amongst all the other, various opportunities that we have been looking at, which there are quite a few now that we've taken a look at in some form or fashion. But at the core of it, it really comes down to what we've used as our guiding principles are the course attribute votes that we've put to the community now twice, one last year and one this year, to help guide our search and the type of the course that we're looking for. And the votes both years have been very consistent. You can go back in Discord and kind of look at the results of those, which we've posted. But it really comes down to quality is always at the top, although that can be somewhat subjective. But regardless, it's still at the top. And then the 2 other attributes that are always rated second and third in all of the feedback that we've gotten is being close to a major airport. So, easy to access, and the ability to play year round. And so, we've really kind of used that to inform or guide our course search. We've looked at a ton of places. Every single course is going to have trade-offs, right, including these 2. But that is really what's kind of pushed us towards these, or, is kind of had us really digging in on these, because, we believe they give a really good combination that seems to line up with what the community has said as their preferences. So, solid courses that can be up-leveled and improved in quality, that are also very close to airports, so they will be easier to access for our national membership, which, I certainly think is particularly important for kind of the sustainability of the course. And then, between the 2 options, obviously one's a little more, has a longer playing season, one is a shorter. That's just part of the trade-offs, right? But that's kind of how we got here, right? In that we've really been kind of prioritizing those pieces, which the community has told us are very important for them. So with that, we can just kind of jump in. Des, how do you want to trade off on this? Do you want to do Southeast and I do Midwest, or how you want to run it?
Sure. Yeah, that works. Yeah, so I'll just go through where the course looks like today. As Jim mentioned, it's currently leased by an owner. Chris, Jim, and I flew down there about a year ago, played the golf course, met with the owner, spent a day there. So get a sense that it's very reachable from New York for even a day trip if necessary. The course itself is eminently playable today. I think we mentioned like $45 to $60 green fees. I think at peak time during the weekend, they might stretch it to like $75. So it's a solid course today. And like we said, it's very, very playable. And if we wanted to take over this lease and have an event there, pending closing on the lease, take over by, spring or summer, we very easily could. But ultimately, like, the reason to do this would be to invest a good amount of capital in up-leveling the course. We've thrown out some examples of what that could mean, whether it's improving the bunkers, taking out a bunch of trees. There's a few kind of quirky, tricked up holes that the existing sort of leaseholder knows are worthy of changing. He just hasn't done it yet. And so we feel like it has the sort of capabilities of being up-leveled significantly over time in a similar way to Spey, right? We have a long-term vision for what Spey Bay is going to look like. We're not flipping a switch overnight and putting, several million dollars into the golf course in year one. The same thing is going to happen if we were to take over the lease at the Southeast course. We would have a phased approach to how we improve it, and it would get better incrementally over time in a very similar fashion to Spey. One of the sort of interesting parts of this lease, though, is that, not dissimilar to Spey, is that part of the condition of the lease is that it needs to be open to the public. The course needs to be open to the public and effectively semi-private in a very similar fashion to how we run Spey. There's a large local contingent of members and locals who love playing at the golf course. It's very profitable today. It's a very, just bluntly, it's like a pretty good business. And so, two things. One, condition of the lease, we'd have to leave it open to the public. Two, I kind of don't necessarily think we would have put up gates and shut out local, non-member public play. Even if that wasn't a condition of the lease. And then the other thing I would add is that, it's in a location that's by other pretty good private and semi-private golf that could allow for some reciprocity. It's surrounded by, I would describe as like very strong amenities, lodging, great restaurants, other activities to really make, a long weekend or like short trip out of it. This is not a destination golf course where you're flying to the middle of nowhere and all you have is golf. And then the last part I'll add, and then I'll shut up and maybe allow people to ask questions, or we can address some stuff that people have outstanding, is that the location itself also lends itself well to virtually year-round play. And I know that that's something that people have gone back and forth on, but ultimately, I think we're in the business as a team sourcing golf courses to cater to what the vast majority of members want. And the vast majority of members are looking to have the opportunity to visit a golf course, as many times throughout the year as they possibly can. And this is a location that could certainly lend itself to that.
Yeah, maybe one other just piece of color. I know people were asking for like comps or give us an idea of what trips at these courses would look like, which is, it is tough to do. We are trying very hard to not reveal these courses that at the behest of the owners in both cases. But just as an example, that this particular destination, I grew up in Atlanta, and this is a place that like my family went on vacation a couple of times. They went to camp near here. There's kind of a lot to do in the area, and I think it lends itself very well to, if you're doing a buddy trip, a family vacation, whatever else, like there is kind of appeal outside of strictly just the golf, which we think might be interesting to folks. Obviously, we'll share more if we get further along in the process, but hopefully that additional color is helpful. One last thing too, I know Jim was talking about the land lease stuff, and I do think some folks have perhaps kind of overplayed that a bit. I would kind of encourage folks to not just look at lease versus own, and that's what I'm going to use to make my decision here, because I think it is more nuanced than that. The one particular reason that this is this kind of structure is attractive in this given situation is that what this would mean is, when we take over the lease for the land, and then we will run the operation of the golf course. We basically pay essentially nothing to take over the lease, right? Like it's very we don't have to invest much at all to do that, to actually acquire the course. So what that means is we can kind of save that ammo for making improvements to the course, and it's a way to kind of devote the maximum amount of capital and effort to up leveling the course, which is all what we want at the end of the day. So that's a particular reason why this structure in this particular situation was attractive, because we all know at the end of the day, what all of us want is a high quality course. Obviously, we've seen that in the votes and in the chats and everything else. So maybe I'll pause there. Do you want to take questions on this one? Do you want to keep going on the Midwest one? How do you want to run this?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand, come up on stage. You can have discussions. Chat is purring, right, with lots of these questions happening in writing, but happy to discuss here on stage. So feel free to raise your hand, come on up. If you have any questions about specific courses, some of the ideas that are involved, if you have a preference here, I'd love to hear you up on stage. Can dive in further. You also jump to
just
submitted questions that we have.
Yeah, I was just kind of scanning back through the chat. Just to be clear, and this is true for both courses, but talking about the Southeastern right now, there is no renovation plan that's been developed. There's no architect that's been picked. All of that stuff is in the future, right? Just to be very clear about that. So that is all stuff we could discuss as a community. None of that's been decided or anything like that. In the proposal, we try to give a description of okay, this is some examples of the types of things we could do to the course to improve play right away. Things like removing trees and redoing bunkers and so on. But none of that is set in stone by any means. All right. Well, in that case, we'll just go on to the Midwest course. So one of the things I did want to do on the call was just clarify, because I think just kind of monitoring the chats and everything over the past few days, I think a lot of people were kind of jumping to, mid-course, Midwest course equals, top 100, and Southeast course equals, something that's less than top 100 or whatnot. But I do think it's worth kind of stepping back and just making sure we're kind of looking at both options clear-eyed. So today, I would kind of characterize both courses as of similar quality, or at least like judging by the greens fees, right? They're kind of similar level of greens fees today, in that kind of whatever $45 to $70 greens fee range, depending on time of year and day of week and so on. So that's true for both courses. The Midwest one as well. The difference here, of course, is that the opportunity we're evaluating in the Midwest course is there's someone already there that we would partner with to kind of invest alongside of to up-level the course. And really the way I've thought about it is to accelerate all the changes that we might make to improve the quality of the course. Like with both options, right? The long-term goal, no matter what course we acquire, the long-term goal is to have an incredibly high-quality course that we're going to invest in and make top level for our members, right? Like that's going to be true no matter what. The kind of difference here is that, in partnering with the current owner, we'd basically be accelerating that plan because we're going in with another partner that would be co-investing alongside of us, launching a new membership, which helps that process and so on. But so I just think it's helpful to kind of set that out up front. The course today it certainly, has great bones. It's got kind of the golden age architect pedigree, as we stated in the proposal. But it certainly has been, underinvested in the past, which is, ultimately why the opportunity is there. But, certainly has the kind of pedigree and the bones, a good foundation on which to do some improvement projects. And in partnering with the current owner, that's what we would be aiming to do in a relatively short time frame. But, as we've stated in the proposal as well, that would mean courses closed until at least 2026, right? It would be kind of a full renovation with closure of the course and work being done throughout the next 2 years. So that's certainly a downside. And, we would be partnering with someone else, of course, not just doing it solo. But that kind of comes with the trade-off between the two. The Southeast course, the plan would be to take on improvements over a longer time frame because we are doing it, on our own in that instance. But yeah, I think we've described a lot of it in the proposal. This one we certainly think has the potential for a really high upside, a really high ceiling. That's kind of how we've described it in the proposal and why we think it's potentially interesting. Certainly want everyone's feedback. But it appears that it could be something that's really special once work and changes are put in. So I'll pause again. I'm not have to talk and keep up with all the questions in chat. But Coop, if there's anything we should make sure to hit, please let me know.
D Weezy just asked about potential downsides to a co-owned venture in terms of having complete autonomy for future decisions, or will we always have to run it by them? And this is something that's come up a lot in the chat, specifically about this option, right? And obviously my response has been, I think we don't quite know where those lines are drawn today, but that's something that I think we would obviously very much want to determine and get some specifics before closing a deal. But I'd love to kick that over to you three to kind of elaborate on how you see that playing out in terms of community input and collaboration with a co-owner. I'm assuming this person is familiar with Links. They know about the NFTs, obviously based on the proposal, what their perspective might be on our democratic aspects.
Yeah, happy to kind of share some more thoughts there. So, I mean, it certainly is true, right? If you're co-owning the course, then you're co-owning it, right? We don't have kind of sole decision-making power. There's someone else in the room. There's someone else that would be involved in any decision-making. That's absolutely the case here, right? That is that is one of the factors that, we should be taking into account. So, worth it to be perfectly clear about that. That said, it's also true, like you mentioned, Coop, like the kind of structure of everything is not finalized. So I know people would love to get like all the nitty gritty specifics, but in terms of like ownership percentage structure, what the membership looks like, all of that is still very much being worked on. But it is, in the discussions that we've been having with the current owner, we've been talking through the prospect of, any member who's joining the course, even, locally, someone who hasn't been involved with Links previously, that they would be acquiring NFTs as part of their, kind of becoming a member at the course and having that as a requirement, kind of the original vision of using it as the sell, where you have to, you need to have the NFT to have the right to purchase the membership, all of those types of ideas. We've had pretty open discussion around that, and there's interest on it. And I do think, at least personally, that has the potential to have a very aligned kind of vision here, right? Like if every member at the course is holding the NFT and they're, kind of, we're able to all vote on these same decisions or have input on anything that's happening at the course. At the end of the day, that's all the members, right? And that is what will kind of determine a lot of what happens at any course, is the desires of the members, because they're the ones that are, using the course, paying the bills, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, there's a lot of detail to figure out there, but and it is certainly co-ownership, situation, right? So, got to be very clear about that. But what we've been thinking through really deeply is, what is the best way for us to align incentives, make sure that there is kind of alignment of vision, that feedback will be incorporated along the way, and to make sure that plays out kind of how we would want it to, and ultimately how that would be to the benefit of the current owner as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I think there's an interesting contrast there. Of course, the timing plays in really big for me, the 2026 concept, versus, they're both, I guess, playable now, but the Midwest course would be under construction, versus a course that we would kind of be on our own to improve over a longer time period, right, with our own investment at the Southeast course. But being the sole, I guess, leaseholder and operator of the business, how we would be able to have more of an impact, or maybe even not necessarily more of an impact if the co-owner at Midwest is super amenable to that, but we would absolutely be able to, have a big impact very quickly on how that course operates and make it our own. It's a really interesting opportunity when you consider these two courses side by side, and what that means for us as a community. But I do think both of these are great options, and want to, again, give props to you guys for sourcing these and getting them to the point where the community can have feedback and vote on them, even in this anonymized state, and look forward to the next phase, right, when we can have more info about where they are specifically, and more of those details. But I do want to let everybody know the voting is open now at Snapshot Golf Links. So if you haven't seen the proposals yet, you can head over there and vote. But you have all week, right? So there's no rush. Feel free to raise your hand, come up on stage as well if you want to discuss or share your thoughts or opinions on these courses.
And maybe just to reiterate, while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, we definitely want everyone voting to not just think about this head to head, right? We want specific feedback on each course individually. We think they're both viable options, and neither of them are done deals, right? So we do want to really get everyone's feedback on each opportunity individually, so we know how to think about both of them in isolation. So, please make sure you're looking through deeply rather than just making a call, Midwest versus Southeast or what have you. That is valuable information for us, and that's why it's the third part of the vote. But just encourage everybody to look deeply at both options and give us your feelings on each one individually as well.
Cool. I'm not sure. Oh, so Bez answered Tronsky's question. What effect from DM Vine, this question, would acquiring one of these courses limit our search in the particular region in the future? For example, if we do Southeast, would we look at other regions as a priority since we already have a Southeast course? And kind of the thought process on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we've thought ahead too specifically that far, but intuitively, if we had one course in a specific geography, we wouldn't get one right next door, or at least not in the near term. I think that would make logical sense. That probably is true, or at least there's some truth to it. I mean, you never know. You never know what opportunities might pop up, but I think that is probably true. I also think, these first courses in the US that we acquire, it will be really important that we get really strong community engagement around, whichever one or ones that we start off with, right? And that's why we're trying to line up, so specifically with what the community's told us about what their preferences are. But at the end of the day, we have to have people that are excited about the course, join the course, make it a thriving operation, and ultimately, seeing that at our first course or courses that we acquire in the US is what's going to lead to the ability to do it again if we choose to, and add additional courses in the mix. So that's super important. That's one of the reasons we've phrased the answers in the proposal like we did, right? We want to know how many people are, kind of that extreme yes, like really are certain that they would join that course in that specific setup, and how many are less excited, and so on. Because at the end of the day, that's going to be very, very important for the success long term.
Awesome. We got a request. Feel free to come on up as well. We've got Possum Kingdom on stage. Welcome to the stage. How you doing?
What's up, boys? How we doing tonight?
U.S. courses pretty well.
Good.
Love it, love it, love it. Hey, first of all, I got to give the leadership huge props for getting us to this point. I know it's been dropped a couple times in Discord, but guys, we've been at this, and I say we, I mean you guys have been at this for 24 months, and we've got an amazing Links course in Scotland in the bag. We own it, and we've got two really viable options in the US here. So I don't think you guys are getting enough credit for all the work. I mean, you said over 200 courses that you've looked at. So just big time thanks to the leadership for getting us to this point, first of all. Second of all, I'm all in Team Midwest. So I can let you and the team know. I mean, I'm joining no matter what. If we go Midwest, so I'm in all the way. I hope my fellow members will join me. But question on, I know you have to be a little bit vague to protect the anonymity of these places, but can you talk a little bit about other courses nearby? For instance, are there any other elite type courses, whether it's, we throw around top 100 a lot, but even, best in state, are there other, high level courses that if we made a trip to either of these particular places, you could knock down, within an hour drive or something, one or two other golf trip worthy type courses? Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks. I think, Chris, keep me out. Southeast for sure. With the Midwest one, there are some incredible other private clubs nearby. I think as it relates to other, more easily accessible golf courses, I think it might be a little trickier.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably depends on potential reciprocity setups or how that all unfolds, but we certainly don't have a ton of visibility into that at this point. But there's definitely high quality courses in both areas for sure.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you for coming on up. Do we want to go to the form, Bez C. Bruce? We have a submission there. A few questions in there. I don't know if you guys have that up and ready. Could address that. Or if anyone else wants to raise their hand, we can come up on stage as well.
Yeah, so it's the question or questions that we got are primarily around just kind of how exactly the national membership will work versus local membership. Let's see, and then what's event access look like, and so on. I think the short answer is we don't know a ton of the specifics. And, again, we're bringing this to the community before it is a completely detailed and finalized deal, right? In the interest of getting feedback sooner rather than later. But I think it's a reasonable expectation that like whatever course we have, there would be multiple tiers of membership based on location, like a local versus a national. And we would certainly seek to, kind of maximize availability for all of these to kind of the greatest, make them relevant to the greatest percentage of the community as possible. But it kind of just like we did at SPAY, right? If you're a national member or international member in that case, you'd expect to have some limits that you wouldn't see on like a full membership. So like a cap on rounds or, things of that nature. But none of the kind of very specific details around that had been determined. Just scanning through the rest of the questions here. There's kind of questions around, I think this is referring to the Midwest course around the what's the rationale for thinking you can take a public course and take it to a much higher level. Speaking for them, but I think the kind of intent around that one specifically is it will be undergoing a major renovation, right? It is going to undertake a significant amount of work. So that is kind of ultimately the rationale. And then again, so when we're thinking about it as an opportunity for Links, I think that particular one is, if we're going that route, what we're choosing to do is invest to accelerate, kind of improvements on the specific course. And, again, we're partnering with someone else to help us put the bill to accelerate that and kind of bring it to that level. So hopefully that's helpful. I think that kind of is at the core of the questions here.
Awesome. Thanks for running that out. Have we done any analysis on how profitable the Southeast course is today and how different it would be if we put money in double the greens fees? Some areas of the country are pretty nice, price sensitive, but a 120 weekend rate is, out there in some of these areas? This question's from Mike and Talk.
Yeah, actually, Mike, I can take this one. So one of the interesting things about the Southeast course, so I think at least in some of our, the folks that have, been exposed to the courses and know a bit about the courses and the folks involved and what the potential upside is, because it's always hard to really, when we can't share everything we'd like to share at this point, because we're trying to bring as much information as we can to the community as early as we can to gauge sentiment and focus on the right things that people want. There's benefits and drawbacks to each. I would say one of the benefits of the Southeast course is it's profitable today, right? So this is something that we know. It's already making money. It's positive. It has positive EBITDA. And also, as part of the deal, the current leaseholder would be investing quite a lot of money into the clubhouse on our behalf. So the overall facilities would be pretty good. I mean, it's hard to say at this point because again, we haven't done the deal, but the upside in terms of the course in maximizing yield and profitability, and being able to continuously invest in it over time, this is something that we feel like very strongly about. So yeah, I think that if we were to invest the right amount of money in course improvements, we know that there's going to be money that's given to us to improve the clubhouse. We could definitely increase greens fees. I think that that's a very likely scenario. Yeah. Well, of course, by the way, the greens fees for our members, guest greens fees might go up, but of course, obviously, if you're a member, you're not paying greens fees. Those would be the public greens fees. So yeah, you could definitely increase profitability in that golf course.
One
Awesome.
one question I'm just seeing in the chat: what does positive EBITDA mean to the NFT holders? What does that do for us? I think it is important because I mean, this is just kind of a good general point to be thinking about. Like at the end of the day, a profitable course means that, like, even if you kind of ignore all of the other things that could happen, right? Or acquiring other courses, everything else. What that allows us to do is invest more in the course, invest more in everything else we would want to do, events, community, things that are beneficial to the community, improvements to the course itself, and or acquiring additional courses, right? So that point is particularly important, and it's also just from kind of in a more short-term perspective, it is very helpful just kind of taking over a profitable operation. And, from a cash flow perspective, it means we can really kind of get going and, don't have to be thinking about additional investments that have to be made just to get to profitable and, worrying about that there's any sort of risk tied to that. So good question, but I do think it's important for all those reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll follow up on that. I mean, any course that we choose as a community, we want it to be profitable, right? Because if you have a course that's not profitable for many, many years, it's hard to sustain it. It's about sustainability. So when I talk about EBITDA, it's effectively for the NFT holders, for folks that are joining. If the course makes money, we can reinvest more money into the course continues to get better, and your membership experience continues to get better. So that's what we're always looking for in these things too, is like a sustainable business model for these courses. And there was another question about what would it do if there's no revenue coming from the course for a couple of years on the Midwest? These are all things that we've scenario planned for. So there would be a membership drive. Folks that want to initiated that course. And it's okay if that course isn't generating revenue for a couple of years. The difference with the Southeast course is it already has expenses, right? It has a greens team. It has equipment that, that equipment sometimes works very, very well. Sometimes needs to be replaced. There's expenses that you have to pay for associated with that. And we just want to make sure the course is profitable. So, it's like owning a house. It's like things go wrong at the house, and you want to make sure that you have the money to spend to improve it and get it to the quality you want. So profitability, as we're looking at these different courses, is obviously pretty important too.
Excellent. Let some more questions roll in. If anyone wants to come up on stage, feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to spin the wheel of names for the final week of Links Leagues. Congrats to all the participants. Got a lot of rounds posted for a winter league. Really exciting stuff. So I'm going to spin this wheel. See who we can get for the random win. Almost C. Bruce, but it's Stephen Young 22. Congratulations on the win there. Love to see it. And the player of the week is Zed, who put up 16 points in his final round to lock in second place. So congrats to our Stephen Young and Zed for the Links Leagues participation rewards. Fun stuff there. I'm not going to talk about who won the Winter League because it shouldn't be me, but I think I did. Don't know how it happened. Got really lucky with some winter golf in Philly, and then played pretty well at the Karoo at Citrus Farms. So fluke. I will not win another Links Leagues, but reminder to compete because most of you listening could beat me if you submitted your scores. So cheers on that one. With that, I'll kick it back over to the guys to talk more about these course options if there are any other questions popping up.
And if there aren't more questions, make sure to head over to Snapshot. Voting is live now.
Cheers. All right. In that case, I'm sure we'll have more discussion in the chats. Tune in tomorrow. We'll be on a Twitter Spaces as well to discuss the courses externally. But this is broadcast live on Twitter if you're listening there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Tuesday as well to discuss the results of the Snapshot vote. And we're here every Tuesday. So thanks for tuning in, Links. Appreciate you all.